They told you not to open this message. They hoped you would scroll away before hearing these words. Because the moment you truly listen, everything begins to change. This is not just another video. This is not motivation. This is not coincidence. There is a shocking letter connected to your name, and if you keep skipping the signs around you, you may lose something you were never meant to lose. Stay with me until the end, because there is a part of this message that feels strangely personal, almost impossible. Yet the people who hear it at the exact right moment always say the same thing afterward. How did this video know what I was hiding? And before we continue, I need you to do one thing. Do not skip, because the title is not a trick. Your skipping will get you in trouble spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and financially if you continue ignoring what has been trying to reach you. There is a reason you clicked. A reason your eyes stopped here. A reason this message found you tonight. And that reason begins with a letter. Not a normal letter. A shocking letter. A message prepared long before this moment. A message connected to your future. You may laugh right now. You may think this sounds impossible. But deep inside, something feels uneasy. Something feels familiar. That feeling is not fear. It is recognition. Because part of you already knows there is something changing around your life. Have you noticed it? The strange delays. The sudden silence from certain people. The pressure. The emotional exhaustion. The nights where you overthink everything. The moments you feel disconnected from everyone, even while surrounded by people. None of this happened by accident. You are being positioned, prepared, warned. And the shocking part? The letter says you were never supposed to remain small. That's why your battles became heavier the moment you started believing in yourself again. Somebody listening right now recently felt like giving up completely. You smiled around people, but inside you felt drained. You asked quietly, why is everything becoming harder? Listen carefully, because the answer is hidden inside the letter. The letter begins like this. To the one who almost quit, the moment those words were written, your story changed. To the one who almost quit, heaven saw every silent tear. Not the tears people noticed. The silent ones. The tears you wiped quickly. The tears you hid from family. The tears that came after everyone went to sleep. Those tears were counted. And this is where the message becomes serious. The letter says something is trying to distract you before your breakthrough arrives. That is why your attention has been under attack. Scrolling endlessly, doubting yourself, losing focus, starting things but never finishing them, feeling tired even after resting. You thought you were lazy, but the letter says you were spiritually overwhelmed. And the enemy wanted one thing. To make you skip the moment that could change everything. That is why this message appeared tonight. Not yesterday. Not next week. Tonight. Because time is moving faster around your destiny. And someone watching right now has already noticed strange patterns repeating. You meet the wrong people again and again. You almost succeed, then something suddenly collapses. You start healing, then old pain returns harder. You try moving forward, then fear whispers, what if you fail again? The letter explains why. It says, your future frightened people who wanted you weak. That sentence alone shocked thousands. Because suddenly everything made sense. The betrayals, the gossip, the fake friends, the people who disappeared after pretending to support you, the jealousy you felt but couldn't explain. You kept wondering why certain people acted strange around you. The letter says they sensed something valuable inside you before you fully recognized it yourself. And now comes the warning. Please listen carefully. The letter says the next 30 days are critical. Not because something bad is guaranteed to happen, but because your choices during this season will decide whether you walk into your next level, or delay it again. Somebody listening has already delayed their blessing multiple times, not intentionally, but through fear, through distraction, through ignoring intuition, through staying connected to people who secretly drain your spirit. The letter says your biggest problem was never lack of talent. It was lack of protection around your energy. That explains why you feel exhausted after talking to certain people, why your peace disappears around certain environments, why your confidence drops after hearing certain voices. The letter warns you, be careful who receives access to your mind in this season. That line alone changed lives. Because some people are not fighting you physically, they are fighting your focus. They are planting doubt slowly, quietly, patiently, and if you are not careful, you will begin destroying your own future while thinking it was your own decision. That is how dangerous this season is. But there is good news hidden inside the warning. The letter also says a shocking reversal is coming. The same people who underestimated you will witness your transformation. The same doors that stayed closed will suddenly open. The same opportunities you prayed for will begin appearing unexpectedly. But first, you must stop skipping the signs. Stop ignoring the discomfort. Stop pretending your intuition is wrong. You already know who drains your spirit. You already know what habits are destroying your focus. You already know what fear keeps holding you hostage. The letter says, what you tolerate now will either bless your future, or bury it. Read that again inside your spirit, because this message is not entertainment. This is confrontation. Somebody watching right now keeps asking for change while repeating the same patterns. The letter says heaven cannot bless the version of you that refuses to grow. That hurts to hear, but it's true. Growth requires separation, discipline, sacrifice, silence, and most people quit during the uncomfortable part. That's why so few people reach their true purpose. But the shocking letter says you are different. It says, you survive things designed to destroy weaker souls. That explains your endurance. The nights you thought you would break completely, the heartbreaks, the rejection, the loneliness, the confusion, yet somehow, you are still here, still breathing, still searching, still hoping. That is not weakness. That is proof. Proof that your story is unfinished. And now the message becomes even more intense. Because the letter mentions a hidden opportunity approaching your life. An opportunity disguised as inconvenience. Be careful not to reject it too quickly. Some of the greatest blessings enter your life looking uncomfortable at first. A difficult conversation, a sudden move, an unexpected ending, a strange new beginning. The letter says, do not fear what leaves during this season. Fear what stays and destroys your peace slowly. That line shocked people because they realized something instantly. Not every loss is punishment. Some losses are protection. Some endings are rescue missions. Some closed doors are divine mercy. You cried over things that were secretly damaging your future. And now you finally understand why certain relationships collapsed. Why certain plans failed. Why certain people vanished without explanation. The letter says they could not follow you where you are going. Listen carefully now, because this next part is extremely important. There is someone watching this who has been feeling spiritually attacked at night. Restless sleep, heavy thoughts, sudden anxiety, emotional exhaustion for no clear reason. The letter says your sensitivity increased because your spirit knows change is near. And whenever transformation approaches, confusion tries to enter first. That is why you must guard your attention. What you watch matters now. What you listen to matters now. Who you speak to matters now. Your environment is shaping your future more than you realize. The letter says, protect your focus like your life depends on it, because in this season, it does. That sentence hit deeply for a reason. Because distraction has already stolen years from some people listening right now. Years of potential, years of growth, years of opportunities, all because they kept postponing the life they were meant to build. But tonight is different. Tonight something is waking up inside you. You can feel it. A seriousness, a realization, a quiet urgency. That is not panic. That is awakening. And now comes the most shocking part of the letter. The part most people never expect. It says someone from your past is about to reappear. Not by coincidence, by assignment. And you must be careful, because not everyone who returns deserves access again. Some people miss your energy, not your heart. Some people return only after realizing your value elsewhere. The letter warns, do not reopen doors that heaven closed through pain. That message alone saved people from repeating devastating mistakes. Because loneliness makes people reconnect with danger. But this season requires wisdom, not desperation. You are not called to chase people anymore. You are called to protect your peace. And yes, that means some relationships must remain memories. The letter continues. The next version of your life requires a stronger version of you. That means stronger boundaries, stronger discipline, stronger focus, stronger faith. Because where you are going, weakness will cost too much. Somebody listening right now has been playing small to make others comfortable. The letter says stop shrinking yourself. Stop apologizing for your growth. Stop dimming your light around insecure people. You were not created to stay hidden forever. And here comes another shocking revelation. The letter says the thing you feared most may actually become the reason your life changes completely. That failure you cried over. That rejection you never understood. That painful ending. That humiliation. It was preparing you, training you, sharpening you. One day you will look back and realize the pain was building the strength required for your assignment. That is why you survived what should have destroyed you. Because your story carries weight, meaning, purpose. And now I need you to hear this next part carefully. The letter says there are people secretly watching your life right now. Watching silently. Studying your progress. Waiting to see if you fail. Do not fear them. Your success will speak louder than your explanation ever could. Stay silent. Stay focused. Stay disciplined. Because the moment your breakthrough arrives, the same people who ignored you will suddenly remember your name. But the letter warns you not to become prideful when that happens. Remain humble. Remain grounded. Remain wise. Because every new level attracts new tests. And this next season of your life will test your ability to protect your peace. Now listen closely. The letter contains one final warning. It says if you continue ignoring your inner voice, life will force lessons upon you more painfully. That is why this message appeared now. Not to scare you, to wake you up. You already know what needs to change. You already know what you have been avoiding. You already know the decision you keep postponing. The letter says delay is becoming dangerous, not because you are doomed, but because your future is waiting for your courage. And courage is not the absence of fear. It is moving despite fear. One decision can shift everything. One boundary, one conversation, one prayer, one act of discipline, one moment of honesty with yourself. That is all it takes sometimes. The shocking letter ends with these words. You were never abandoned. You were being prepared in silence. Read that slowly inside your spirit. Prepared in silence, while others laughed. Prepared in silence, while others doubted. Prepared in silence, while others betrayed you. Prepared in silence, while you thought nothing was happening. But something was happening. You were growing roots strong enough to survive the storm attached to your destiny. And now, your season is changing. You can feel it. The pressure, the urgency, the strange pull toward transformation. This is your confirmation. Do not go backward now. Do not reconnect with what nearly destroyed you. Do not ignore your intuition again. Do not waste another year doubting your worth. The letter found you for a reason. And maybe, just maybe, you were never meant to skip this message after all. But the story does not end there. Because after the shocking letter was revealed, something even stranger began happening. People started noticing signs. Unexplainable signs. Sudden dreams. Random numbers repeating everywhere. Old memories returning out of nowhere. Conversations that felt too perfectly timed. Doors opening after years of silence. And for some people, fear increased the closer they got to success. That part confused them the most. Why would fear grow stronger right before breakthrough? The second letter answered that question. Yes, there was another letter. And this one was never meant for everyone. Only for the people who stayed until this moment. Only for the people who felt something deep inside while listening. Only for the people who secretly know their life is standing at a turning point right now. If that's you, then listen carefully. Because the second letter begins with a warning that shook people completely. It says, the closer you get to your purpose, the louder distractions become. Suddenly everything makes sense, doesn't it? Why you lost motivation lately. Why your mind feels crowded. Why you start overthinking at night. Why small problems suddenly feel heavy. Why random temptations appear right when you decide to improve your life. The letter says this is not random resistance. It is pressure designed to pull you away from your next level. And the dangerous part? Most people don't even realize it's happening. They think they are simply tired. But the letter says many souls are exhausted because they are fighting battles internally every single day. Battles nobody sees. Battles hidden behind smiles. Somebody watching this has mastered pretending to be okay. You laugh around people. You answer messages normally. You tell everyone you're fine. But deep inside, you feel like something is missing. Like your spirit has been carrying invisible weight. The second letter says, you have been carrying burdens that were never assigned to you. That line hit people hard. Because suddenly they realized they were trying to save everyone while slowly destroying themselves. You kept fixing others, helping others, supporting others, understanding others. Meanwhile nobody noticed you were collapsing quietly. The letter says this season requires a painful but necessary lesson. You cannot heal in environments that continuously break your peace. Read that again. Some people around you only love the version of you that sacrifices yourself endlessly. But the moment you protect your energy, the moment you create boundaries, the moment you stop begging for respect, they call you different, cold, selfish. But the letter says protecting your peace is not selfish. It is survival. And now comes a revelation that may shock you. The second letter says someone close to you secretly underestimated your potential. Not because you are weak. Because they sensed your future before you fully believed in it yourself. That's why certain people acted strangely whenever you talked about your dreams. That's why support disappeared when you started improving yourself. That's why some people celebrated your failures more than your progress. Jealousy rarely announces itself loudly. Sometimes it hides behind fake smiles, quiet competition, passive comments, subtle discouragement. And if you are not careful, you will start doubting yourself because of voices that were never qualified to define your destiny. The letter says, not everyone clapping for you wants you to win. That sentence opened people's eyes instantly, because suddenly they remembered certain moments. Moments where something felt off. Moments where compliments felt fake. Moments where energy shifted after good news. Trust your spirit. You notice more than you think. And now the message becomes even deeper. The letter says there is a decision approaching your life very soon. A decision capable of changing your future permanently. But fear will try to convince you to stay comfortable. That's how destiny gets delayed. Not always through failure. Sometimes through comfort. Comfortable pain. Comfortable routines. Comfortable sadness. Comfortable limitation. The letter says, your next level requires leaving what feels familiar. That's difficult. Because familiarity feels safe. Even when it hurts you. Even when it limits you. Even when it destroys your confidence slowly. Somebody listening right now already knows what they need to walk away from. A toxic relationship. A draining environment. A destructive habit. A version of yourself you have outgrown. But you keep hesitating because change feels uncertain. Listen carefully. The second letter says uncertainty is sometimes the doorway to transformation. You are asking for a new life while gripping old chains. That cannot continue. And now the atmosphere changes, because the next part of the letter becomes extremely personal. It says, there is a gift hidden inside your pain. At first people rejected that idea. How could pain contain anything valuable? But then they understood. Pain created wisdom. Pain created discernment. Pain revealed true intentions. Pain exposed fake loyalty. Pain taught survival. The strongest version of you was born during seasons you thought would destroy you. That's why you cannot compare your journey to people who never faced what you faced. Your battles shaped you differently. And now, your spirit is stronger than your fear. You just haven't realized it fully yet. The letter says someone listening right now is about to receive unexpected confirmation. A message. A phone call. An opportunity. A connection. Something that will make you stop and whisper, this cannot be coincidence. When it happens, remember this moment. Because your season is shifting already. You are not stuck forever. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. The delay was not denial. You were being prepared. And yes, preparation often feels lonely. That's why many people quit too early. They mistake silence for abandonment. But silence is often where transformation grows. Seeds grow underground before anyone sees results. The second letter says, what is hidden now will soon become undeniable. That line carries power. Because your growth has been invisible for too long. People judged you while you were healing. People underestimated you while you were rebuilding. People mocked you while you were surviving. But they never saw the internal battle you were winning quietly. And now the results are approaching. Not instantly, but undeniably. And there's another warning attached to this blessing. The letter says when your life begins changing, some people will suddenly return pretending nothing happened. Be careful. Not every reunion is restoration. Some people reconnect only after realizing they lost access to your energy. Discernment is critical now. The letter says, stop giving second chances to patterns that already revealed their intentions. That line saved people from heartbreak. Because many souls confuse attachment with destiny. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay forever. Some people are lessons. Some are assignments. Some are warnings disguised as attraction. And if you ignore the warning signs repeatedly, pain becomes the teacher. Now listen carefully. Because the second letter contains a message for the exhausted souls watching this tonight. The people tired of pretending. The people tired of fighting silently. The people tired of carrying emotional weight nobody understands. The letter says, you are closer than you think. Closer to peace. Closer to healing. Closer to freedom. Closer to the breakthrough you nearly stopped believing in. Do not quit now. Do not disappear now. Do not return to darkness now. Because the version of you waiting on the other side of this season is stronger, wiser, calmer, and finally free from the chains that once controlled your life. And suddenly, everything begins making sense. The delays, the heartbreaks, the waiting, the confusion, the isolation, the silence. None of it was wasted. It was preparation. Preparation for responsibility. Preparation for elevation. Preparation for purpose. The second letter says something shocking next. It says the reason you felt disconnected from certain people recently is because your spirit outgrew environments that no longer align with your future. That explains the loneliness. Growth often separates before it multiplies. And yes, separation hurts, especially when you loved people deeply. But the letter says, do not chase what continuously chooses distance from you. That message freed people emotionally, because many were exhausting themselves trying to force connections that heaven already disconnected quietly. You cannot force alignment. You cannot force loyalty. You cannot force genuine love. And chasing what keeps hurting you only delays your healing. Now here comes the strongest part of the message. The second letter says your story is about to inspire people who once overlooked you completely. The same person who doubted you may soon ask how you changed. The same people who ignored your struggle may one day admire your strength. But remember this, never become bitter because of what you survived. Pain can either sharpen wisdom, or poison the heart. Choose wisdom. Choose peace. Choose growth. Because your future requires emotional maturity stronger than your past wounds. And now the atmosphere shifts again. Because the final lines of the second letter are impossible to ignore. It says, you were chosen to break cycles, not repeat them. That sentence carries weight. Cycles of fear. Cycles of failure. Cycles of toxic relationships. Cycles of insecurity. Cycles of self-doubt. It ends with you. That is why your journey feels heavier sometimes. You are fighting battles generations ignored. You are confronting patterns others normalized. You are becoming the person younger versions of your family needed. And yes, that responsibility feels overwhelming at times. But the letter says you were built for this assignment. Built through pain. Built through survival. Built through endurance. Built through silence. And now your season is changing again. Can you feel it? The old version of you is fading. The fearful version. The insecure version. The exhausted version. Something stronger is emerging now. Something wiser. Something disciplined. Something unstoppable. And before this message ends, listen to this carefully. The second letter says there is one thing more dangerous than failure. Ignoring your calling. Because failure teaches. But ignoring your purpose slowly destroys confidence from the inside out. That's why you feel restless lately. Your spirit is tired of living beneath its potential. Your soul wants more. More peace. More meaning. More alignment. More truth. And deep down, you know it's time. Time to stop delaying your growth. Time to stop shrinking yourself. Time to stop doubting your worth. Time to finally become who you were meant to be. Because the shocking letter was never sent to scare you. It was sent to wake you up before it was too late. And now that you heard it, you can never pretend you didn't know. And then, the third letter arrived. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. Almost like it was waiting for the exact moment your spirit became ready to hear it. Because the truth is, most people would have skipped this far before reaching the real message. But you stayed. That means something. The third letter begins with words that made people freeze completely. It says, the battle was never really about your past, it was about your future. Think about that carefully. All the confusion, all the attacks, all the emotional exhaustion, all the strange delays. What if none of it was random? What if the pressure increased because something valuable was attached to your next chapter? Suddenly your entire life starts making sense. The moments you almost gave up. The moments you felt isolated. The moments you questioned your purpose. The moments you cried silently wondering if anyone truly understood your pain. The letter says heaven watched every second of it. And here comes the shocking part. It says there were moments you were protected from things you never even saw coming. Accidents that almost happened. Conversations that could have destroyed your future. People who secretly planned against you. Situations that looked harmless but carried hidden danger. The letter says, you survived battles you knew nothing about. That line terrified people. Because deep down, they remembered moments that felt strange. Moments where plans suddenly changed unexpectedly. Moments where delays frustrated them, but later saved them. Moments where people disappeared right before disaster. You called it coincidence. The letter calls it protection. And now the atmosphere changes again. Because the third letter says someone listening right now has been fighting an invisible war inside their mind. A war nobody fully sees. Overthinking, fear, self-doubt, regret, memories replaying late at night, questions without answers. You smile publicly while fighting privately. And honestly, you're exhausted. Not physically, spiritually, emotionally. Move quietly until your results speak for themselves. Powerful people understand silence. They stop announcing every plan. Stop seeking validation. Stop explaining their vision to people who already decided not to believe in them. And maybe that's what you must learn now. Not everyone deserves front row access to your becoming. Now listen carefully, because the next section of the letter becomes deeply personal. It says there is a younger version of you still living inside your heart. The version that was rejected, ignored, misunderstood, abandoned, embarrassed, hurt. And sometimes, that wounded version still controls your decisions. That's why you overthink love. That's why rejection affects you deeply. That's why you struggle believing good things can happen for you consistently. The letter says healing means learning that your past pain does not predict your future reality. Read that again. Your past pain does not predict your future reality. Just because people hurt you before does not mean everyone will. Just because you failed before does not mean you always will. Just because you struggled before does not mean struggle is your permanent identity. The third letter says, you are not who trauma convinced you to become. That sentence awakened something inside people, because many realized they built their entire identity around survival. Always defensive, always fearful, always preparing for disappointment. But survival is not the final chapter of your story. Healing is. Freedom is. Peace is. And now the message becomes intense again. The letter says someone listening is about to experience a sudden separation. Not necessarily romantic. It could be emotional, energetic, spiritual. But someone or something is leaving your life soon. Do not panic. The letter says, what exits now create space for what truly belongs. That's difficult to accept. Because humans naturally hold on to familiarity, even painful familiarity. But some things cannot follow you into your next season. Some people only understood the wounded version of you. And once you heal, the connection naturally changes. That is not failure. That is transformation. Now listen carefully because this next part matters deeply. The third letter says you have underestimated your own impact for too long. You think your presence doesn't matter. You think nobody notices your effort. You think your voice is small. But the letter says there are people who survived because of your kindness. People who kept going because of your words. People who felt less alone because you existed. Never underestimate the power of your presence. And now comes a revelation almost nobody expected. The letter says your biggest breakthrough may arrive through something you almost ignored. A random opportunity, a new idea, a conversation, a sudden instinct. A moment that seems small at first. That is why the letter keeps repeating, stop ignoring the signs. Because intuition becomes stronger before major life shifts. You already feel it. Something inside you knows change is close. You cannot explain it fully, but you feel restless, pulled toward something bigger. That feeling is not imagination. It is preparation. And now, the atmosphere becomes emotional. Because the third letter speaks directly to the people who secretly feel unworthy. The people who smile publicly but question themselves privately. The people who fear they missed their chance in life already. The people who believe they are too broken to become successful, loved, peaceful, or fulfilled. The letter says, you are not behind. You are unfolding. That line made people cry. Because for years they compared their journey to everyone else. Feeling late. Feeling lost. Feeling forgotten. But flowers bloom in different seasons. Healing happens differently for everyone. Success arrives differently for everyone. And your timing is not a mistake. The third letter says delays protected you from becoming successful before becoming emotionally ready. Because some blessings become dangerous in immature hands. You were being developed privately before being elevated publicly. And now you finally understand why patience was necessary. Now listen closely. The final section of the third letter contains a message so powerful that many people replayed it multiple times. It says, one day your life will become proof that survival was not the end of your story. Imagine that. The pain that almost destroyed you becoming proof of your strength. The rejection becoming redirection. The delay becoming preparation. The heartbreak becoming wisdom. The silence becoming growth. Nothing was wasted. Not one tear. Not one lonely night. Not one painful lesson. Everything shaped the person you are becoming now. And maybe that person is far stronger than you realize. Maybe the future version of you already exists, waiting for your courage to catch up. That is why you cannot quit now. Not after surviving this much. Not after coming this far. Not when your breakthrough may be closer than your fear wants you to believe. The third letter ends with words nobody expected. Words that felt almost impossible to ignore. It says, the life you keep praying for is waiting on the other side of the decision you fear most. Read that slowly, because deep inside, you already know what decision that is. And once you make it, everything changes.